Hi guys, welcome back to this channel. And I'm saying welcome back because for a very, very long time, I haven't posted anything on this channel. My name is Quintin, and I used to be a safari guide in Kruger National Park. I also did a lot of work in the Sabi Sands. So over the last few years, I've had a career change. I've gone into a different direction, also with photography and videography. But over the last few years, I've constantly found myself going through my phone, going through old images, old videos, all my wildlife stuff, and I keep thinking about how incredible my journey was in those years that I worked as a safari guide. And there's so many stories that I keep telling friends of mine, new people I meet. I love catching up with old colleagues and just chatting through some of the sightings and the incredible experiences we used to have. So that got me thinking. There's a lot of subscribers on this channel already. Well, not a lot, but there are some. And most of these subscribers are most likely clients of mine that used to be on safari with me at some point. And that got me thinking to maybe just get some of the content that I've captured, which is not professional, some is even just cell phone footage, but get that content onto this channel, and then me talking through some of those sightings and telling the stories and giving a bit of background on what's happening in the video. So yeah, this is a new series that I'm starting. I'm going to call it Wildlife Archive, and that'll be me going through all the sightings and some cool memories. I don't know how many videos there are going to be. There might be 20 videos, there might be 10, I don't know. But all I want to do is I want to capture this, I want to put it on my YouTube channel, and I want to share it with you guys, and you guys can share it with your friends. And then we're going to go and see how well it does. I guess I have to give you a little bit of background about myself. So I guess the love for wildlife came from my parents. We used to live next to Kruger National Park when I was very young. I think I was 4 years old, in a small town called Palaborwa, and which is literally 2 kilometers from an entrance gate. So that's where I got my first exposure to wildlife, where I can remember. And we stayed there for a couple of years. Sadly, we moved away for many years. I didn't go to Kruger a lot, and then after I finished school and I got my first car, the first thing I did that weekend was I took my car and I went into Kruger National Park. I took a friend of mine with, and we went to Kruger. And yeah, that's where the bug bit me again, and I just started falling in love with the place. Started falling in love with nature, started, photography as well. Very, very amateur at that stage, but started photography. Fast forward a couple of years later, quite a funny story. I worked at Virgin Active as a fitness instructor, and I met this guy on the boxing bag. I was helping him, and he was from the UK. His name was Ben. I'll never forget this guy. And I said to him, obviously, you're not from South Africa. What are you doing in the country, And he said, no, they're here for work for a few months, and over weekends they travel and they see the country. So I immediately saw my opportunity, and I said to him, have you been to Kruger before? And he said no. He's heard about it, but they don't really know much about it. So they're not sure how to go about going there and stuff. So I said, no, I will help you. So gave him a bit of information, did some research, checked their schedules, and I said to them, all right, so we can go camping in Kruger for a couple of nights. There's 4 of them. And these are the dates that I'm available, and we can do this. And let me know if you guys are interested. So fast forward a little bit more, got them a quote. I can't remember the price for camping way back. I think this was 2006. But I think it was like 2,000 Rand or something. And I got to him and I said to him, okay, this is the price. And he said, great, come to the hotel tonight where we're staying, and I'll give you the money. So I get to the hotel that night, and they gave me 2,000 Rand each. So they gave me way too much money, and I was like, no, this is it's too much. I needed 2,000 in total. And he said, no, well, keep the rest, use it for food and drinks and whatever. So I thought, okay, well, this can be a really good opportunity. So I used the extra money. I rented a minibus, and I asked a friend of mine if he wants to go with. We're going to take these British guys to the Kruger for the first time. So literally, we took them to Kruger for a couple of nights. We went camping, and that's where I really fell in love with showing people stuff. I wasn't a professional guide. I wasn't there in a professional capacity. I was just a visitor. We were there for a few days, and they loved it, and I loved it. And that's where the bug really bit me, where I started thinking, I want to become a safari guide. So, or what we actually call a field guide. That's the correct term for it, but a lot of people don't know what field guide means. So safari guide is just the term I use. So I did some research on what to study, fast forwarded a few years later, finished studying, and then I started a safari company with this friend of mine who went with me on that first weekend. And for the first few years, we did it from Pretoria, where we only went into Kruger for overnight safaris. And you drive far, you spend a few nights there with the clients, and you come back. But that soon became a bit of a hassle, driving up and down with an open safari vehicle and not having place to keep it, in the low veld. So he had a full-time job here. I made a decision to move to the low veld. So first I wanted to stay in Hoedspruit, couldn't find a place, decided to move to Hazy View and base the company there. And that's where everything changed, because I realized that when you live in Hazy View, which is right next to Kruger National Park, and you want to have a safari company, you cannot do only overnight safaris, because it's going to take a lot longer to grow your business. So I quickly figured out that doing day safaris, just day trips into Kruger, is going to grow the company a lot faster. So then I started doing day trips. Pick up clients in the morning, go into Kruger for the whole day, or just in the morning, whatever they want, and come back in the evening, drop them off. So obviously for me that wasn't an issue, because spending every day in Kruger for so many years, or every day in Kruger, which ended up to being so many years, was obviously a massive, massive blessing. And that's how I got into the guiding. And fast forward a couple of years later, unfortunately, me and this friend of mine, we went our separate ways. He carried on with the business. I pulled out and went on my own, started working for a company named Elephant Herd Safaris. And then again, my whole life changed there, because I was introduced to the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, which is a private game reserve on the western border of Kruger. I think it's about 60-odd thousand, almost 70,000 hectares, massive, made up of a whole bunch of different farms and concessions, no border fences, no fence in between Kruger and Sabi Sands. And that was an incredible experience, spending time in Sabi Sands, where it's private. You drive around. There's no people driving around in their own cars. It's very exclusive, and also have the ability to go off-road. So for some sightings, we were allowed to go off-road. So if you find a lion in the road and he walks into the bush, you drive after him. Obviously, we didn't go off-road for all the animals, only for some rare stuff, big five, some predators, really unique sightings. Any case, so that's where I discovered a new world in guiding, was this whole exclusive private, which I call the pinnacle of guiding, and also by far the best place to go and do game viewing in South Africa is the Sabi Sands. It's very expensive though. But that's where I learned what quality means of sightings. Could spend so much more time with animals, alone, without having the rush of all the public vehicles around you, but not to take away anything from Kruger National Park. So fast forward again, up until 2018, 2019, I was a guide full time, and spent many hours in Kruger on safari. I think there was a time where I worked out, because in Kruger you can drive a lot further, because we do full day safaris. There was a time that I worked at over a period of 5 years. I did an average of 180 kilometers per day in Kruger over an average of 300 days a year over 5 years. And that amounts to 279,000 kilometers, I think, which is 7 times around the earth. And all of that I spent in Kruger driving around doing game viewing. So many things that I've seen. I've seen some of the most incredible stuff that I've shared with clients from all over the world. And that was by far, for me, the biggest blessing, was to be able to share this amazing creation of God and how everything works in perfect harmony together, and share that with people who's never seen it before. It's their first time here. And a lot of them came back, and a lot of you watching this will probably remember some of the safaris we did. So, and just a disclaimer, I won't say I was the best guide ever. There are some incredibly knowledgeable safari guides out there. I was never the best photographer, by far not the best videographer back then. I'm a lot more skilled in videography nowadays than I was back then. But for me, it was all about passion, sharing, and enjoying everything. The biggest reason I started guiding was because a leopard is my favorite animal to see, and they are so difficult to find. And I had to figure out a way to get closer to animals and to get closer to leopards to be able to photograph them more. And what better way than to start being a safari guide and spending more time in Kruger. So yeah, guys, that's a little bit of the background of me and how I started guiding. Sadly, I stopped in 2020. I did my final safari full-time, did a bit of a career change, and there was one period in 2022 that I went back for a 2-week safari with someone specific, but that's a story for an entire episode on its own. So 2020 I stopped full-time, and now I work in the music industry. I film music videos, I capture photos of live shows, and a little bit more in the entertainment industry. So it's a different kind of wildlife that I'm capturing now. But yeah, that's also a story for another day. So guys, I hope you look forward to it. I'm very excited to share these stories, and I'm very excited to just put it out there and see what happens. So stay tuned, and the next video that will be posted on this channel will be, let's call it episode 1. I will go through all my sightings and all the archives, and I will decide which one I'll put first. But yeah, comment, and if you do remember me, and if you went on a safari with me, comment and share some memories, and then let's see if we can find each other again. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for episode 1 of Wildlife Archive. Cheers.